You're listening to The Coffee Hour. I'm Andy Bates.
I'm Sarah Gulseth.
It is Tuesday, February 11th. Sometimes I get the math right.
I don't.
Sometimes
I don't
I don't
think I ever know what day it is.
Let's go with
It's
Tuesday.
really
Let's
terrible.
go with that. I'm thrilled to share this story today. We've talked with our friends from Laborers for Christ in the past, and they have some outstanding stories of servants who dedicate time and energy and physical labor to projects that support gospel outreach, telling the good news of Jesus and mercy work, and in so many ways. And I personally have seen the work of Laborers for Christ and some of the great things that they can do, and we're really excited to share some stories with you today from our friends at LCEF and Laborers for Christ. Thanks to Concordia University, Wisconsin for supporting the Coffee Hour. Find out more about Concordia University, Wisconsin at cuw.edu.
Live uncommon.
Joining us in studio, Jeff Hernan. He is the director of LCEF's Laborers for Christ. Jeff, thanks so much for being our guest today.
It's my pleasure.
So, Jeff, tell us a little bit about, let's talk about LCEF and where Laborers fits into the picture of LCEF's mission. What is LCEF's mission?
The LCF's mission is basically to serve the changing needs of the Synod's congregations, schools, organizations, and workers as they carry out the sacred ministry, work, and vocations entrusted to them.
So where then does, when we think LCEF, we always think of, the investment arm of our church body. Mm-hmm. That's where my son he's part of the Young Investors Club, and we have investments there as well, and we're very grateful for that. But there's this part of LCEF that sometimes is kind of like a best kept secret. And that is the ways that LCEF serves the church in laborers and ministry support and things like that as well. So where does where does laborers fit in that picture? Tell us about who the Laborers for Christ are.
Sure, and I use that terminology sometimes about being the best kept secret. But anyway, Laborers for Christ falls under the ministry support department. So we have loans, we have investments, and we have ministry support at LCEF. And so we're under that umbrella of ministry support, and we do a lot of things besides just laborers, of course, with capital campaigns, with ministry clarity, many different options or offerings out there that we can help churches, figure out what God wants them to do and how that's done. And we just come in and we love on them and we listen to them, and then we share how we can help them and partner with them in that endeavor they're looking to go on.
Who are the people that make up Laborers for Christ? Who are the people that kind of come in and do these projects?
Well, it's a great question because they're men and women who just love the Lord and they want to give back for what they've been blessed with in their life. And they can be construction folks who've retired and moved on and come on board with us. But they can also be school teachers, just any field out there. Our laborers is on-the-job training for those who have not come to the construction industry, of course. And so we love on them as well, especially when we have a brand new guy or lady come on board with us. We teach them the ropes, and they become great helping hands on their project, just like our volunteers do at a church or an organization that we help with.
How do you fit into this Laborers for Christ? Because you are one of these people now. So what is your story? How did you? Why is this so important to you?
I guess it's important because when I was in my 20s or 30s, my desire was to retire early and then help build churches, schools, whatever it might be, when I was still young enough to do that. And so when I read in the, posting that's out there on the web about this project, I thought, wow, that could be a great fit. And so I applied and I shared that heart I had with those folks who actually made the decision to hire me. But I went to one of the projects even before I got hired just to get the feel of what was going on. And it was just so neat to see what they did while they were there. The church loved on them, they loved on the church, and it was just a great ministry.
I want to get into some of the projects in a little bit, but I want to develop this a little bit more about who the laborers are, like
Sure.
the life that a laborer lives, knowing some, and some of the stories we've had in the past to get to share of laborers. You mentioned earlier that, when you were younger, you wanted to be able to retire early so you could be a laborer. So many of them are retired or have the gift of time.
Yes.
Paint another picture, share maybe a story of a laborer that comes to mind and how they came to be a laborer for Christ.
Well, sure. Most of our recruitment, as we deem it, I guess, actually comes from our projects. And so when we go in and love on the church, they see what we provide in ministry and just processes with what we do on the site, and they love what we do and they want to become part of it. So that's where most of our recruitment comes from. Now we're out there, we do other things, LCMS, LCF, they all put stories in the publications that they have, and so we get some phone calls off things like that, and we do some recruiting out there individually in churches now and then. But the bulk is because they see what we do and they love and fall in love with it. Now our laborers, they travel in RVs most of the time, but it's not a requirement that a laborer has an RV. So when we get to a job site or a work site, we park our RVs hopefully on site if we can, if not at a campground. But sometimes folks come on board and they don't have an RV, so it does limit what projects they can work on, but sometimes we can accommodate that, like at a camp. The camp will have cabins, things like that, or someone in the church may, put up one of our laborers while they're there, maybe a widower or something that says, "Hey, I would love to have some companionship for 6 months. Why don't you come and stay in my house?" That sort of thing. Mm-hmm. So that's how they travel. Again, they give their heart. They give their heart by sharing with their hands, and so that's the love that goes out.
So if a laborer is based in one city, does that mean that they can or will travel around the country to do these projects?
Oh, absolutely. We have laborers who'll drive 2,000 miles to get to a project. Whoa. And they get that. They get there on their own. So they're putting that gas in the RV, gets about 6 miles of the gallon, and they pay for that. And then they pay for themselves to get back home, too.
Wow.
So that's all on their end. Mm-hmm.
That is quite the heart of service. What positions are there? If someone is maybe has a construction background or doesn't, what ways can people serve? Sure,
that's a great question because we do have different positions within our organization. We have our regular laborers who serve under a project manager. So our project manager is the on-site laborer who leads the project. They're qualified to do that particular project. I have project managers who can do anything from a $5-6 million building, and I've got project managers who can do a parsonage renovation or something like that. Mm-hmm. And so my job is to be sure that I partner the right person, the right project manager for that particular project. Of course, I mentioned project manager. We also have a position called project director. And this particular director does all of the pre-construction work. So we have we kind of separate our projects into two parts. One's pre-construction and one's construction. And so the project director mainly does the bidding for the church if the church so deems that they want us to do that for them. We do charge for that, and there's a cost to it, but it gives them an idea of what their project's going to be on the front end before we actually get started. And so they work with contract administration, with calling subcontractors. There's a lot of little details in there, but that's what they do mainly, is the bidding part of it.
So if I wanted to be a laborer, do I have to have a background in construction or even be familiar with construction?
Absolutely not. No, I have a Lutheran couple who were Lutheran high school teachers, and we've had some other Lutheran workers out there as well, whether it be in a school or whatever it might be. So, and I got a tax tax guy who sold his businesses and came on board with us. So there's just all different occupations that come to us. So.
The key being comfortable working with your hands, right?
Yes. Many of them are handyman, kind of like me. I grew up in a real small house, and we tore our house apart and put it all back together. And so that's where I got the love of working with my hands. And so most of them come with that sort of mindset. But even if you don't, it's the parts that we do on a project isn't rocket science. We do the framing, we do the windows and doors and things like that. We call in electricians and plumbers as subcontractors to do that work. Those are licensed trades, and we don't carry license to do the projects or to do those parts of the projects.
Sure, that makes sense. You want to make sure that
everything needs to be up to code.
Right.
Yeah, and some of our guys are electricians or plumbers or whatever, and they can do that work. But again, if they live in Montana and we're doing a project in Florida, their license isn't going to transfer, and from state to state and things like that. So, yeah.
Speaking of from Montana to Florida, I was picturing this earlier too. I have some friends who are laborers for Christ and follow some of their stories and their pictures on Facebook. And I think one of the neatest things about this, I mean, there are many really great aspects of this, but is the sense of adventure. If you get to that stage in your life where you have the gift of time, and you're interested in adventure, like these friends get to travel all over. Some stay primarily in the Midwest, some go to other places as well, but they're just having the time of their lives traveling and serving in so many places and working with their hands, getting to meet new people. I'm really...
Are you jealous?
Yes. I guess that's what I was getting at. I was trying not to be jealous.
Well, you have your retirement plan now, so...
I'll send you an application here next week.
Thank you.
Start shopping for your RV.
If I could retire early, I don't know, can we arrange that with my friends in Concordia plans? I could retire early so I could be a laborer. No, not going to work that way. But there really is. I think for many of them, there's a bit of adventure with that too, because you get to go to a new place, get to meet new people, and relationships. I know some of them that I've talked with before, just the relationships that, thanks to social media and things like that they can carry on and stay in touch with people that they've met and served with and served through Laborers for Christ. We need to take a quick break. We'll continue our conversation here on the Coffee Hour. We're learning more about Laborers for Christ with Lutheran Church Extension Fund. Our friend Jeff Herndon. You're listening to the Coffee Hour. I'm Andy Bates.
I'm Sarah Gulseth.
You're a miracle. You know that, right? A living, breathing, one-of-a-kind miracle. You were created to stand apart, to share your gifts in the service of others, to make an uncommon impact in a common world. And at Concordia University, it's our mission to help you do that, to live uncommon. To learn more about Concordia, go to cuw.edu.
Welcome back to the Coffee Hour. I'm Andy Bates.
I'm Sarah Gulseth.
We're learning about Laborers for Christ with LCEF, and Jeff Herndon is the director of LCEF's Laborers for Christ, sharing stories of some of the laborers. And up next, we're going to learn more about the projects, the types of projects. Jeff, what are the types of projects that laborers take on to help support congregations and organizations as well?
Sure. We are pretty flexible, and we can do a variety of different types of projects as far as the building of it goes. Anywhere from adding a portico or maybe changing out light fixtures at a church, all the way up to building a new sanctuary and school, which we did that in Kentucky. It was about a 26,000 square foot building. We tore the old buildings down, both the school and the church, and we put it all back up again. And so that was it was our largest project to date, and that was in 2018.
Makes it sound so easy.
But it almost sounds like Jesus saying, "Tear down this temple and rebuild it." So you literally tore down the church in the school building and then put it back up again. And what was the time frame on that?
It's about a 1.5 year project.
Wow.
That's really neat. So, what are the settings for this? Was a church and a school. Are only churches or schools eligible? Tell us who's eligible for a Laborers for Christ project.
Sure. Anyone actually involved with the LCMS. So it could be registered service organizations, churches, schools, any of those things tied in with LCMS.
Do you have more stories about projects you've done recently? I want to hear more stories.
Well, we are currently on a project in Indiana. It is at Lakeview Ministries, and it is our 5th project there. My first since I've been involved with Laborers. I currently have some people there. We are adding a villa or a village, as they call it, which is basically a bathhouse and 4 cabins. And so we got started in the late fall and took a bit of a break for the holiday. We're back at it again. Now, it's a little cold up in Indiana this time of year. We've had a decent January, though, for working outside of a few days here and there. So they're continuing to working. And actually, I have another gentleman on the way from Texas up there. Should be arriving probably tomorrow to continue to help with the project going on. And so being our 5th project, and they've got a whole lot more that they want to do in Seymour, Indiana at Lakeview Ministries. And so we're looking at, hopefully some projects down the road with them as well at another location, actually.
Wow. How many projects typically are going on all at one time?
Sure. Right now we have one. It is wintertime for most of us in the Midwest, and that's where most of our projects tend to fall. So we do tend to have one going on during the winter months, and we do this year at Lakeview. I've got 10 projects slated for this year for 2020. Hopefully all of them will come off. We're still, in the final stages of some of the projects, and things can stop, those projects from happening, issues that come up with the city or whatever it might be. But it looks like we're going to do 9 to 10 projects this year. And anywhere from camps all the way up to a $4 million addition in Olathe, Kansas. We're building a 30,000 square foot building there. It's 2 stories. Top floor will be a gymnasium type of multi-purpose room, and the bottom floor will be classrooms.
Wow.
So if there are 10 projects going on in 2020, that means that they're overlapping. They're happening simultaneously. How do you staff 10 projects like that? Granted, if some might move from one project to another, but how do you staff 10 projects that are running concurrently?
Sure. We have a roster of laborers who do sign up for those projects. And currently I have enough laborers, but I am hurting on project managers. So that's where my hurting is right now. Now, if I did 12 projects, I probably wouldn't have enough laborers. We're really at that cusp where I need to, bring more folks on. We've had a lot of retirements this year, and so that's hurt us a little bit. But yes, you're right. Also, some go to project because they just love what they do so much, and they're full-time RVers, or they just like to be on projects. So we've already finished one. It was a small one. We replaced all the lighting in a church to go from fluorescent to or LED bulbs. Too many acronyms. So that one was just a couple of weeks with one of my laborers and some church volunteers. So he led that project.
Wow. So one down, a few more to go. And I was just thinking about, you mentioned the one at camp. Boy, I feel sorry for them that they get to stay in a beautiful setting like that while they're working. That must be rough.
Yeah, we're actually going to do a visitor center at Camp Luther in Nebraska, Schuyler, Nebraska. And it's a 5,000 square foot building. I don't think I've seen a more beautiful Lutheran camp than that one. You think of Nebraska and you think of just flat lands, corn.
It's not flat.
But that particular place is kind of like the gym in that county. It is rolling hills. It's got a lake. It's just a beautiful camp, and we're gonna go in there and help them out.
Y'all sound like corn isn't beautiful.
It can be. The rolling hills of Nebraska are definitely prettier, in my humble opinion.
So you mentioned that there's really a cap on how many projects you can do based on the number of laborers you have. Tell us about the need for laborers. Is there a need for more laborers for Christ?
Absolutely. Our labor pool, typically, they're all retired. So typically they come to us in the 65-year range, and they typically stay around 10 years. And at that point, they're thinking that they probably can't do it anymore, that sort of thing. And so that's a life average of 10 years. And so basically, every year I end up losing about 10, currently. We had our heyday back in the good old days when we had 50, 60 projects a year, and now we're about 10. And so we're building that back up. It's been doing very well over the past 3 years. But what's holding us back right now is the laborers and especially the project managers. Mm-hmm. So we'd love to have some people call us and let us share with them what we're about, and love to bring them on board.
So where in the world do these projects happen? Is this United States, nationwide?
Yes, we are in the United States. We've actually done one in Alaska, so that even though it's not continental, it's we have done a project up there. There is a 1% chance of a project in Hawaii. I've already offered to carry someone suitcases when they went over to look at it. But
you can't really drive your RV there, can you?
There are Lutherans in Hawaii who
may
have projects.
Yeah, there's a church there who needs a new building, and
there you go.
We don't know if that'll happen or not. We're kind of thinking it won't, but
no guarantees.
But yes, we've been in every state, I think, except 4 in our 40-year history. So,
what are some of the really memorable projects that have happened?
Memorable. I think the large build that we had in Kentucky, it was ongoing when I came on board, and fell in love with that because we had so many volunteers there helping, and it was a massive building for us. I mean, it was big. So that particular one I highlight that quite often when I'm talking to churches. It was kind of really neat to see it go up. When
a project is done, what's the response typically from not only from the laborers but also from those who benefit from it, from the congregation or the organization, the school?
I appreciate you asking that question, because what we get so many times is Jeff or whoever, the pastor, whoever may be talking to one of us, is even if you had cost us more money, I would have, if I had known what you guys do and how you do it, we would have had you do it anyway, even if we had cost them more. Now, of course, we save them money. That's part of our, our offering, is that we can save them probably about 20% on their project. So, you talk about a $4 million building, you're talking $800,000 we can probably save there. And that's ministry dollars that they can go out and do things otherwise that they couldn't, or have a lower loan to pay it off earlier, whatever it might be.
And not only is it saving money, but there's something else happening too when laborers are serving. Yeah,
we just really infect the church, and that's what I call it. We show them our love. We show them Christ's love, and I'll give you an example of that. We were at a project in Minnesota, and one of the church members I think they were going on vacation. I think that's what happened. They didn't have anyone to cut grass. Their lot. And so one of our ladies jumped on a tractor and cut that lot for those 2 weeks. And we just share and just love on them so much. And at a project in Oklahoma, 2 of our ladies went to a local coffee thrift shop. They're a ministry in themselves where they try to help young ladies coming out of prison and try to give them a job to show them how things should operate. And we went in there and worked for a couple of days. A couple of our ladies did. So that was their ministry to that community. So we don't just minister to the churches or organizations. We try to be a part of the community as well.
So when I'm a laborer and I'm assigned to this site, say it's a congregation, I become a part of the life of that congregation for that time too. Just whether it's joining together in the services on Sunday or Bible study or whatever it might be. It sounds like that's what I've heard from laborers in the past, is they join in the life of the congregation while they're there.
Absolutely. It's part of our infection, is that we become part of them. And again, hear folks telling us that we hate to see you go, because our attendance is going to go down by 15 people, whatever it might be, and you guys were just the life of us, and we appreciate that. Now, actually, in one church, this was not in my time, but I heard it had happened not long before I came on board. The church did not have a choir. And when we came on board onto that project, we started a choir. And from what I hear to this day, they still have a choir. And so that's just really cool to see that and how we infected that church with our love.
Those Laborers for Christ choir.
That's
Love
fantastic.
it. We have just about a minute left, and so we've talked about this. Happens nationwide. Projects are going year round. Certainly, a lot happening during some of the other seasons. Not as many in the winter, but how to join? How to become a laborer for Christ?
Sure. Give me a call at the office. I have a couple of ways you can do that. You can email me at ministry.support@lcef.org, or you can call our department's general number at 314-885-6444. And I'd be glad to, talk with you about it, give you a rundown real quick, and kind of like what we did today. But we also have some paperwork we can send out to you to give you a better feel of what we're all about and how we do things.
Any important requirements that we need to know as well? I know you'll share some of those on the phone too, or on email. Sure.
There's only a couple. One, we need an application from you, so that's one thing we send out. And on that application, we do ask that your pastor signs off, stating that you're an upstanding member of the congregation, and he thinks, or he'll think that you're a great fit for the organization. And then we do require a physical. So every 2 years, under the age of 75, we ask that you have a physical done to be sure that the doctor feels comfortable in you doing what we do out there.
Very good. Jeff Herndon, Director of LCEF's Laborers for Christ, thank you so much for sharing this with us today. I'm ready to...
Are you ready to go?
But I'm not retired yet,
man.
And I don't quite have that gift of time yet, but maybe someday. Thank you so much, Jeff, for being our guest on the Coffee Hour today.
Thank you so much. A pleasure being here.
I'm Andy Bates.
I'm Sarah Gulseth.
The Coffee Hour with Andy and Sarah is a production of KFUO. To support the Coffee Hour and KFUO Radio, visit KFUO.org. You can also text KFUO to 41444 or send an email to gifts@KFUO.org. And you can call us at 800-844-0524. KFUO. Christ for you, anytime, anywhere.